Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
Memoir by the PENDREAM TV, so make sure send any day you can share best subscribe to channel. No click a bell, so said the news to our son sabit me I can tell no tea. Sure, so best charm frozen on sack and no honey across why memoir. Honorable Sam George or MP demanding go program constituency. And I'll call interview or call grantee interview or radio good. No, they send me to Jaffa a buyer or tell you say ya go for the neighbor of Bawumia bay. Now, a more than I say, my coma Bawumia so pie and Assemblyman. But you by one way say MPPet me Bawumia so imagine some flag bearer come December elections no na Bawumia Ayobia on this year we say or contested for Assemblyman. District Assembly elections now campus or be contested for presidency. Now, I didn't know honorable Sam George Casa and see me. So, my head Bawumia track recorder, buying now buying as head of economic management team. Then, so your economy at Titi up and some cry Assemblyman and in your channel or Monsa and humble or myself, Emma or Munsia ain't taking criticism. Now, they are incompetent and extremely arrogant too. O can be or Montina, Bawumia or Becca yen say if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you and dollar about $1 12 cities or chroma, not just about Bawumia, a very incompetent or a colossal failure and to deserve so contested for president. When Casabe video, no, I'm a person of Bonnie in I some Sam George at the fan Bawumia now swatch our be.
But JB raised a number of very, very important issues about taxes that we're paying. You know, this is a government that came in 2017, and I remember that very first budget Ken Oforiatta came to read sometime in March, and he stood in Parliament. He says he came to abolish nuisance taxes. He mentions this tax, then he says abolished. He mentions this one, abolished. Some of the taxes he claimed he abolished, for example, a tax on real estate or a tax on financial transactions. Ken Oforiatta has brought them back. 7 years on, he's brought them back. They're in this year's budget. You know, so you are asking yourself, did we go or did we come? You know, and it's been all hype. This government has been like a hype government. It's been all about hype and no substance. It's like having a fantastic hype man, but you the artist, you are whack. You know, and that's basically what it has been. You know, and the comedy of failures, you know. But what really ticks me off is not necessarily the incompetence of this government. We knew they were incompetent. It's the sheer arrogance that goes with the incompetence. You know, if you're incompetent and you're humble, you could be taught a thing or two. Exactly. You know, but if you're incompetent and extremely arrogant, you know, that's the your mind kind of attitude. It's what really gets on my last nerves, because you look at them and you see how much of a colossal failure they are. Some of the words I want to use are not radio friendly. I have to be careful, you know, else they won't give me breakfast at home this morning, because I was warned before I came here. Because you see, be careful. You know, because it's exasperating. You sit back and you ask yourself, how did we get so low as a country? Some reports say that our economy has gone back to 1998. Before we went hipping. I mean, you ask yourself, after where John Mahama and Professor Mills brought this country to, after what was handed over to this group of kleptocrats, and where they've brought us to, and the effrontery that they have to look us in the face, the effrontery, you know, it is the height of disrespect that the one man whose job for 7 years it was to run this economy, manage the economy as head of the economic management team, comes to tell us that he's coming back, make me president again. Like what seriously? Do you take us for? You know, Obi, but you see, if we are going to follow these guys here, we won't be happy for the rest of the year. Because look, Bawumia should be the very last person to even think or dream of contesting for assembly elections. You get it? Look, with how bad he has run this thing, assembly election can be charitable. We should run for unit committee.
Maybe you should just go and sit at home.
No, because look, his biggest achievement as economic management team lead is that he's changed Samira's handbag closet and bought her proper handbags. That's his biggest achievement. But every other thing about the economy, this is the guy who said to us that when the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. And when the exchange rate started exposing him, he goes to stand and runs a one-man dry comedy show at the Church of Pentecost Worship Center, where he meets the young people. He says, but you know that I said that, but it is not correct that if the exchange rate is and then he starts laughing.
But can you blame him? These people are cheering him on. So exactly, he simply thinks that what he's doing is right.
When you go to the circus and the clown is performing, what do you do?
Well, that's even when he's funny. Sometimes he's certainly not
exactly. You know, you either cheer him on or you boo him.
Yes, absolutely.
And at that program, where
you can tell.
At that program where he went to walk back his fundamentals, and look at the face of Professor Jan Bafo.
And a lot of the other people,
they were actually laughing at him. They were booing him. It was obvious that this is a guy who's lost his onions.
And even he himself, his body language.
His body language.
Even after.
You get it? He's lost his onions.
Yeah, completely.
And this is the best that the NPP has to offer.
What happened to the men?
They don't even have fetuses.
They don't even have any of them.
School.
They don't have schoolboys. Kita schoolboys can't do.
Area boys say they don't get.
Area boy.
At least area boy like Sam George, they don't get.
Charlie. Look, it's just being a mess, and for me, it is just the fact that look, the young people of our country, and most times I see myself as a voice for the young people of our country. I see myself as representing the young people of this country. I'm not from a political dynasty. I'm literally from the streets, okay? And hard work, the grace of God, and the people of this country have given me a seat at the table of men. And so I feel very deeply about issues that affect the young people of this country. And so when I see politicians, especially politicians who are in government today, taking the young people of this country for a ride, when Bawumia goes to announce with Nanado that they were going to pay rents for young people in this country, and it is 3 years on and they have done nothing about that.
They set up another bureaucracy actually to handle
that rent. I mean, how many of the people on the streets who are dealing with rent challenges, who are dealing with 2 years of rent that they have to pay up front, can go through that bureaucracy?
But is it only that? Sometimes it's the humiliation too of being moved out when you can't afford. Yes.
You know, it is sickening. What has happened to the young people of our country? The young people of our country were promised jobs. The young people of our country are the most despondent that they've ever been. Look, don't get me wrong. We've seen John Mahama's administration. I was part of that administration. We're all part of that administration. We weren't perfect. We had our flaws. Okay? But when you compare that and you compare what we have now, it makes John Mahama's time look like we were in heaven. Because at the end of the day, as a young person, when he said that it was under John Mahama the phrase "pak cable," because you knew that once you stepped out and you moved and you did something, you would get something to go home. There was a pak movement.
The cake was big enough.
It was big enough to be shared. This one, they've taken the cake and put it in Achime Boakwa, and is Achebi and I just said Hokokuto.
They be track a crown.
I mean, what is this? The national cake has become a family cake. The national cake has become a family cake. You get it? And the young people of this country
are doing the 010.
Chale 010. Look at us. In fact,
this is 010.
Now where are you going to go and do the 010?
Maybe I don't want to do one who says, Charlie, ube trim, or maybe I talk about no. Now what we are be.
Let me go and ask Felix. Let me ask Felix if that's true.
Felix is our governor. But Charlie, you know, it's really problematic. And for me, and I've said this everywhere, that one of the reasons why I support John Mahama and his comeback is that I believe that I have seen some of the things he did for young people. Okay, if for nothing at all, I saw the Yes program. Yeah. And there are people who I can personally relate to.
Some pharmaceutical companies.
For example, there is a lady called Israel Akafi Mankaso. Okay,
Yeah, then
she
there's a guy
set up this cocoa chef. She had graduated from Lagos and was hawking in Makola. Applied to yes. Today she has a factory. She has a warehouse in the US.
Can you imagine?
Her factory is in Inco-mpetent. Her factory is my constituency. She employs over 100 people working there, set up and got support. Now she exports across the United States and has her own warehouse. You know what it means to own a warehouse in the US to do distribution? Then I look at a gentleman like Mahama Yusuf, chemical engineer from KNUST, decided to go into fashion designing, harmony trends. Today, he sews and attires the entire cabinet and president of Liberia and Sierra Leone. And almost everybody who matters in Ghana, from John Mahama to the Speaker of Parliament to Nanado himself, it is harmony trends.
Don't forget Houseman Shoes is also there.
Houseman Shoes. Tony Semaya. These are all Ghanaians. These are young people who we helped establish for them to also employ other young people. Can
you say same for the NAPCO guys?
Oh. Why go? Why go? Oh. Have they been paid their last outstanding 7 months? Look, you see, it is this disparity. It is this difference between what we saw under John Mahama and what is happening now that gives me hope and says that, look, I'm going to stake my bet again on John Mahama to come back. One, continue where he left off, but two, the fact that he's, you see, and Jamie spoke about something. She spoke about one endearing feature of John Dramani Mahama, his humility. Because don't forget, I told you about the Bawumia Nanado cabal, the sheer arrogance and intransigence of their incompetence. And I juxtapose that against the humility of John Mahama. And I ask myself, this is a man who is humble enough to admit that I got it wrong here and here.
And even ask you for
your opinions. And ask you, how can we do this better? Okay, that for me is a man I can trust to come back and do something for the young people of this country. Because look, Obi, Nanado and Bawumia have not messed up the young people of this country. They have messed up the grandchildren of the young people of this country. They're unborn grandchildren. Because some of the things they've done, the repercussions go 35 years down the line.
Can you imagine?
So if a young man had a child today, by the time we are paying for some of the things they have borrowed, that child will be 35 years and have a child. So that's their grandchild. So anybody who's a young man today in his 20s or 30s or 40s, your grandchildren's future has been mortgaged by Nanado and Bawumia. And Bawumia wants to come and mortgage 6 generations on. I mean, what kind of joke is that? And that's why for me, I believe that, look, we need to take our time and really delve into this 24-hour economy thing, break it down for what it holds for the youth, you know, and let the young people understand what we're going to do with the 24-hour economy, how it's going to create jobs for them, how it's going to open up opportunities for them, in what areas, in what spaces, and then let people begin to connect with it. Because you see, one thing about the NDC is that you can, as an individual, identify what is in our manifesto for you. What is it that appeals to you? And that's where we really need to go to. And so for me, Obi, my high is, like I said, it's just life. The fact that I have life and that God's given us strength to keep moving. And as for the low is just the government that we have. You know, I mean, they're the cause of everything. They are absolutely clueless at what we're doing. Nanado has checked out of this country. We have a president in name, but not in form. Not in substance. Okay, he's just form, no substance. We have a president who accepts the title or answers to the title but doesn't do the job.
He tells us that he has a flag bearer who will come and solve our problems. Clearly, he tells us that he himself cannot solve the
Absolutely,
problem.
he says the person coming after him will come and solve the problem.
Somebody else is coming to solve the problem.
He has tried to correct that error. He says that he will spend the last year in office.
Doing what?
Building Ghana.
Really?
Yes.
Yes? How many years?
7 years.
Exactly, he couldn't do anything. What will 1 year do?
Well, but that's the point.
Can you give us one of those hospitals he promised?
But that's the point Sam George makes very succinctly. It's the disrespect. It's also the arrogance. And he says it without. Remember his part with the speaker recently?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it was
why must you?
Exactly. I was wondering, did you have to reply to that?
I mean, sometimes.
It was so petty.
Yes.
No,
yes.
you see, Nanado thinks he's an imperial king.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, you see, the imperial king in ancient medieval times, he was executive, he was legislature, and he was judiciary. He made laws to suit himself. He implemented the laws, and he sat in judgment over his subjects. And so Nanado thinks that why should Parliament and legislative body seek to make laws without him?
Yeah, but there must be some accountability, some judge.
And then he even in his letter to Parliament, he proceeds to interpret the Constitution, which is the forte of the Supreme Court. I mean, which kind of president
does that?
Nanado?
Especially when he's a lawyer.
But there's also a certain element of superiority, and as I said, that can also be a flaw. You know, like I said, it's almost as if I think I have a superior argument. So anything everybody says is just that hogwash. And that is back. Oh, you see, that's another problem with the nature of the leadership we have now.
Yes.
You understand? Try it and you'll be sorry. So you see, everybody is actually
Everybody's afraid. You know, journalists who had free range to be able to speak their mind as a journalist.
I remember all of them.
And run their mouths. Today, when you go to their studio, they say, Sam George.
Yeah, don't say this, so be careful.
No, they actually say, Sam George, I can't say this. Can you say it?
Look at this.
When you try to say it, they even tell you to measure it.
Because they're afraid.
They're afraid.
You know, and you ask yourself, where have we gotten to as a country? Look, Nanado is so brazen that he has not just cowered the Ghanaian journalist. He's not just clamped down on media houses. He's not just clamped down on press freedom. He's actually taken it to the diplomatic corps. Really? In February 2021, he summoned, just after the re-election, he summoned the entire diplomatic corps to Pediasi and singled out the German ambassador.
Yes, for his comments. Yes.
Because the German ambassador had spoken about corruption and gave him a dress down.
Serious?
I mean, that is the arrogance.
The man has been mute since.
The man has gone mute since. That's the arrogance. I'm telling you to call. But did we not see John Benjamin in Ghana? And
right.
John Benjamin was sitting at Occupy Ghana programs,
happily,
and speaking.
Yeah, happily.
Whoever called him out.
Happily. Even recently, when I made similar comments, he actually had the effort to threaten to sue me.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Oh yeah.
You should go and sue Al Jazeera first.
I told him I was waiting for him.
I mean, when they were
I told you this is why you picked the wrong button.
every time they are threatening. We know them.
Yes.
They don't know the law. They know the lawyers.
Yes.
But that's why they always lose international cases because Abuche there, you don't know the lawyers. When you go there, you are exposed.